Hello friends, there is so much information coming out about this subject that it's very difficult to make a summary, but I have done my best. It never hurts to have a little sense of humor instead of dramatizing events and letting ourselves to be overcome by pessimism. Opinion article. The disputed vote of Mr. Gaius. It's very hard callus to file. The legal battle begins on Monday. This choice is far from over. A legion of lawyers will fight in the final battle. The objective is to discover the falsified votes. The coalition planned to defeat of the president. It's the legal votes that decide the presidency. The media does not decide who wins. The ballot boxes are guarded by the National Guard, and a election audit operation launched. The most controversial electoral process in history is expected. The president hopes to regain his victory in several states. No president has yet been officially certified. The media demolished the First Amendment. Republican observers were banned from attending the vote count. Rudy Giuliani questions the validity of postal votes in several states. Let's start. This election is far from over. Tomorrow, Monday, the judicial battle for the US presidency begins, and it's the courts that will have the last word on who won the elections. The legal votes decide who the new president is, not the media. The disputed vote of Mr. Gaius is a Spanish film from 1986 directed by Antonio Jiménez Rico, based on the novel from the same name written by Miguel Delibes in 1978, which can be used as a metaphor for what is happening because it's a very hard callus to file. It is rumored that the Department of Homeland Security has secretly begun a hidden election audit operation, which claims that 80% of the ballots had failed integrity checks. Once all the election fraud is cleared up, the president will win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and many other states, giving him a landslide victory of over 300 electoral votes. Legion of lawyers. The Republican Party has mobilized a legion of 600 lawyers to wage the final battle in the courts, which have been deployed in states where the vote count has not yet been completed, in order to uncover forged postal votes. The coalition planned the president's defeat so that he could present evidence of electoral fraud to the Supreme Court. Tony Shaffer, a former Defense Department intelligence officer, clearly stated that the president would win the election in accordance with the Constitution based on the many pieces of evidence collected by the intelligence operation. The next battle would be very intense, and the swamp would do everything possible to maintain control. The media are now in the process of convincing the people of the results. The people cannot be told what it is. They must see it. The sleeping people are part of that system, but once the system is exposed, the people will start to wake up. It's not an easy process, but a painful one. Covert operation. Media blasts First Amendment. The three major television networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, simply pulled the incumbent president's post-election press conference off the air as soon as he began questioning the honesty of the vote count. The broadcast by CBS, ABC, NBC and MSNBC TV were interrupted during the president's live speech, and commentators said, "We have to interrupt this broadcast because the president is making a series of false statements." In fact, the big media, which since his surprising election and even before have tried to ridicule the president, going so far as to insult him, and now try to silence him by censoring his statement. This seems more like a covert operation by the coalition, because the media do not have the authority to decide the result of an election. The president's Twitter account is growing exponentially. 1.5 million new followers in 4 days. He has 88.8 million followers. Does he look like a man who is losing an election? Meanwhile, his old rival has 16.6 million followers and calls himself the elected president. Does anyone else see the biggest discrepancy between his large crowd celebrating the old man's victory and his rallies, where fewer than 6 people showed up each time? In the unlikely event that he won the election, it is possible that he was declared mentally incapacitated because of his memory lapses, in which case the president would be Mrs. Harris and the vice president would be Mrs. Hilaria. Reflections. The president is not the savior of humanity, nor he is a messiah, as some believe, but the visible head of a great coalition before him that is fighting to free humanity with the help of benevolent civilizations that cannot intervene directly. The Chinese elders and the coalition existed before him, and their plans will continue without him. The main agenda is never about him, but about the good of humanity. But things will get worse before they get better. The Grand Coalition is composed of, among others, the President, the National Security Agency, a group of some 800 special operation personnel who advise the President, including the Pentagon Chief of Staff, General Mark Milley, Vice President John Hyten, General James McConville, Admiral Michael Gilday, General Brown, General Paul Nakasone, and General J. Raymond. The strategy that the swamp orcs are using is to announce a false result to trick us into the virtual reality timeline by telling us that they won before he did. They are trying to create an energy of acceptance and surrender within all of us, and that feeling or emotion of surrendering or accepting the results. This is the same as agreeing to enter this timeline without knowing it. The readjustment of the currencies is being blocked at this time by a large group of regressors led by negative galactics. These election results are a disaster for the star seeds that do not share globalism, but the final decision has not been yet made. It doesn't matter what comes forward if you decree again and again, I am the light, I am the truth, I am love. I am. Stop tiptoeing around people who don't love you. Individualism is the only way to destroy the collectivists' plots against you. The transformation of humanity will come neither from the left nor from the right, but from the milieu consisting of law-abiding citizens of all walks of life, colors and beliefs, who are fed up with being lied to, with fraud and corruption. Humanity is now pushed to the limit and can be jumped the great canyon of sleep and learn to fly to the other side with our own power that we have always had. Will we glimpse in what where that power lies and stop focusing on the false electoral deceptions that trap us and keep us as a sheep? Judicial control. It's now known that all the ballot boxes full of votes are under judicial control by the National Guard, and that the latter is checking all the ballots, one by one, to see whether or not they have the watermark printed on them, and other high technology security measures, and the judicial surveillance, in order to detect false ballots in an electoral process that is expected to be the most controversial in the history of mankind. This would happen if the President does not first activate the machine broadcasting system and broadcast a revealing 8-hour documentary on everything that has happened in various languages, which would knock out the globalist camp. If he did that, it would be famous internet blackout that has been talked about so much, as the machine signal would block the media. But we don't know anything for sure. We really don't know what is going to happen, but I smell that something big is going to happen these days, that things are not going to stay as they are programmed by the media. I don't think that at this point in human history, an injustice as evident as this one is allowed in the most powerful country in the world. Such films have already had many bad endings throughout history, and we don't deserve any more of the same, as we are entering a new positive and luminous era. We don't want any more nightmares. We want heaven on earth. It appears that the real ballots were printed by a highly guarded facility with high security measures in order to print them secretly with big high-tech systems to be able to easily differentiate them from the fake ballots. This was the ace up the sleeve of the trusted that we all ignored, and if this judicial investigation is applied, there will not be the slightest doubt of the fraud committed. Another rooster would crow if they tried to cover everything up, which I do not rule out completely, because the powers that be love the old man because he is more manipulable. On Tuesday, 3rd November, US citizens went to the polls to elect 435 representatives to the House, 35 senators out of 100 to the Senate, and the President and Vice President. The vote count is still underway. Through the mainstream media projects that the Democratic candidate has won the presidential election. According to the figures provided by Fox News and the Associated Press, the Republican candidate is reported to have secured 214 electoral votes, while the Democrat is expected to obtain 290, whereas 270 are required to win. Declaration. As of Monday, said the still President, our campaign will begin to process our case in court to ensure that the election laws are fully complied with and that the legitimate winner is felt. The American people have the right to an honest election. That means counting all the legal votes, not counting illegal votes. This is the only way to ensure that the public has full confidence in our choice. The president claims to have won the election with 71 million legal votes and complains that observers were not allowed to attend the recount. Earlier this Saturday, projections by several US media, both Democrats and Republicans, attributed the victory to his rival. It remains shocking, he added, that the elderly campaign refuses to agree to this basic principle and wants the ballots counted even if they are fraudulent, manufactured or issued by ineligible or deceased voters. Only a party involved in an infraction would illegally keep observers out of the counting room and then fight in court to block their access. Extraordinary things. The still president claimed Saturday to have won the election and obtained 71 million legal votes shortly after several media outlets projected the victory to his Democratic rival. The current president also denounced that Republican observers were forbidden to attend the vote count. Bad thing happens that our observers were not allowed to see. This has never happened before, he wrote on Twitter. His father stated that millions of mail ballots were sent to the people who never asked for them, and added that the 71 million legal votes in his favor represent the largest number of votes ever obtained by an incumbent president. This message was quickly flagged by Twitter with the warning, "This claim of election fraud is disputed." Previously, the president declared that these elections are far from over and announced that his campaign will take the case to the court next Monday. We all know why he is wrongly rushing to pass himself off as the winner and why his media allies are trying so hard to help him. They don't want the truth to be exposed. The simple fact is that this election is far from over, he said in a statement. In his view, the Democratic candidate was not certified as the winner of any state, let alone any of the hotly contested states that are headed for ordered recounts, or states where our campaign has valid and legitimate legal challenges that could determine the ultimate winner, he added. Complaints. In Pennsylvania, for example, our legal observers were not allowed meaningful access to observe the counting process. The legal vote decides who the president is, not the media. I will not rest until the American people have the honest vote count they deserve and that democracy demands, the president concluded. In his view, the Democratic presidential candidate does not have the right to claim victory in the election while legal proceedings are underway, the incumbent president wrote on Twitter. I could also make that claim. Legal proceedings are just beginning, he tweeted. The president hopes to regain his leadership in several states following the results of the legal proceedings initiated by the Republicans. I had such a big lead in all these states until late on election night, only to see the clues miraculously disappeared, and as the days went by. Maybe these clues will return as our legal proceedings progress, he wrote on Twitter. Demands. President Rudy Giuliani's lawyer questions the validity of postal votes in several states and says his campaign will file a federal lawsuit. Giuliani won't that he will not concede the presidency while there is still doubt. Postal workers complained that they were ordered to change the mail on the date of the ballots, while 7 states had more ballots than registered voters. They argued that Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, and Nevada had all been subject to possible violations. His election campaign command will file a criminal case in court over the nationwide vote counting by mail, the president's personal attorney said Wednesday. Giuliani said he has a statement from 25 servers and had spoken to a total of 50 with similar stories. I could have brought about 50 with me, Giuliani said, but he said no because 50 is too many and some are afraid of reprisals. According to Giuliani, the Republican campaign plans to file several federal lawsuits alleging uniform disenfranchisement of ballots. He accused the Democratic machine in Philadelphia of tampering with the count and keeping the votes on the dead secret, among other serious accusations. Eric, the son of the incumbent president, confirmed that the Republicans will file a lawsuit in Pennsylvania and accused the state's elections commissions of rampant corruption. We are going to win Pennsylvania, but they are trying to fool us because they know it's their own path to victory, he said. Arguments. The Republican team has good reason to challenge the results because the winner is very uncertain until the dispute develops. As in year 2000, 9 Supreme Court judges can have the final say on who wins and who loses in the race for the highest office in the land. Nevada is one of the 5 swing states where the Republican team is challenging the vote count. The others are Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. He argues that thousands of votes in the closely contested presidential election were cast by voters who moved out of state or even by people who died. On the other hand, many states like Nevada rely on notorious outdated voters lists and apply fairly lax standards to confirm voter identity for mail ballots. That's all for today, and thank you very much for listening.